All right, everybody, welcome to the DealGen podcast, where we talk to investors, entrepreneurs, and business titans about a wide range of topics and experiences. The DealGen podcast is brought to you by DealGen Partners. DealGen Partners is the leading deal origination service on the market for private equity buyers. DealGen Partners combines their M&A and private equity experience with a proprietary method of multi-channel marketing services that they call the Bird Dog. This unique recipe generates transaction-ready deals at an unmatched pace and increases a private equity fund's chances of closing a deal by up to 10x. Reach out to DealGen Partners before you begin searching for your next investment. All right, guys, today on the DealGen podcast, we are talking to Sam Koch. Sam has become a great friend of mine, and he's actually the co-founder of a group called Otto. So my company, DealGen, used Otto to create our system of outreach right now that we use to deploy on our behalf. And these guys are unbelievable. So they've really just mastered that art of multi-channel marketing. And not only, is the proprietary software they built out the best I've ever seen, but, working with these guys is also fantastic too. They really go above and beyond to add as much value as they possibly can to every one of their clients. And, Sam and I, dive in a little bit here on why multi-channel marketing works, the successes and the failures that go into launching a campaign, and, kind of the mindset that you need to have around, when you're reaching out to individuals, how it needs to be approached and how they've learned to approach it, not only through trial and error on their own end, but, through just years worth of and years worth of testing and launching these campaigns. So really excited to dive in here with Sam, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Sam, nice to have you on, buddy. It's been fun getting to grow DealGen, alongside you guys, with you guys, working with Otto, to kind of build out this process and formalize it together. But at the same time, we're both building businesses a little bit independently of each other too. So, and we're both kind of starting, at a relatively similar time. So it's just fun watching, the journey as we go together, but also, watching you guys grow as a company at the same time.
Yeah, it's been great watching you guys grow. I think it's cool given our role as a very technical product and you guys having this business relationship and how those two things can grow in tandem in different ways.
Yeah, they intertwine a lot, and that kind of leads me to my first question in a way. So let's say I'm a prospect. We're all working and trying to sell people, to on the different services, the different offerings that we have, right? And I think both of us are very familiar with how each other work, and we know how our relationship works. We know how your relationship works outside of this. But let's say I'm a general prospect who is interested in Otto, and I don't know if cold outreach is going to work for my business. It's something that I personally have tried before, and it didn't work that great. So I'm not sold on the whole theory of cold personalized outreach. Um, what would you tell me, and why is Otto different than just an entrepreneur trying cold outreach?
Yeah, well, first I'd say if you try to do cold outreach the way you did it before, I agree with the sentiment. It's not going to work. Uh, the technology has changed. What you need to do to get in front of buyers has changed, and that's really what we do well at Auto is understand the three main components of what gets someone to open, reply, um, and book a meeting. And that's understanding, finding how to find the right person, how to identify who that ICP is. Our machine learning models find the perfect candidates for what you're selling. For DealGen, we're able to find founders who are potentially in that point where they're ready to transition their business.
Hmm.
We're then able to message them with personalized content about their business, so it doesn't feel like this is a one to many transaction. It's a one to one feeling,
Right.
and we're able to get in their inbox and get on the phone with them using our proprietary technology that allows us to message them over multiple different channels, and that multi-channel approach really makes a huge difference to what our response rates are compared to anyone else in the industry.
Yeah, talk to me about that. I think a lot of people when they think about using or the tools that they've used in the past might be very one channel focused, right? It might be just email marketing, or it might be they use HubSpot to send group emails, or it could be the LinkedIn approach. But why does that multi-channel work so well? And how did you guys kind of discover that like is a hidden trick or hidden benefit to this whole outreach method?
Yeah, I think when people start outreaching, they tend to think about what's the channel that they respond to the most. And so some people love talking on the phone, and so they'll pick up the phone, they'll start dialing, and that's great. There's some people who are like, I like when I get an email that's personalized, or I'm really interested when someone sends me a LinkedIn. Maybe you respond to direct mail, maybe you're 95. But the point is, everyone's got a channel that they like to receive messages from, and that actually tends to be the channel that people start with to send messages from.
Sure.
The thing that misses is like, just because you like one particular channel doesn't mean your buyer necessarily likes that channel. And that's really where we come in, is like understanding that not everyone's a call receiver, or not everyone's a email responder. And some people have 2,000 emails in their inbox and never check it, and they're super responsive on their phone. And so finding that perfect way to connect with your buyer is very important in this marketing world, where there's just more and more content getting pumped out every day.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart way to think about it, and I actually hadn't thought about it that way before, but I know myself personally, I don't love talking on the phone if I don't have to. If something is like text worthy, just text it, and I'll respond because I have my phone and it's whereas a phone call, you then it might be about one specific thing, but then we get dragged on talking about other things and it distracts you from what you're doing and you might be in a meeting, you can't, so I'm much more apt as an individual to respond to text messages. So if someone calls me, might be one, two, three times, I might not answer or I might not even get to the voicemail because, it's just not something I want to do. But if I get a text, I might respond within 5 seconds. And that's the same approach where you might email somebody two, three times and, they might not even have email on their phone, but you hit them with a voicemail and they call you back or, they spend a lot of their time on LinkedIn. So, if it's a staffing company, I mean, they live on LinkedIn, you might hit that person with a LinkedIn message. They're on there 8 hours a day and they hit you with a response right back. Even though you've already emailed them three or four times, they're not seeing that. They're seeing the LinkedIn, and at the end of the day, the goal of what we're doing is to get that prospect on the phone and have a genuine conversation about how you can provide your service and help them. It's not to make a sale. You're not going to make a sale really through a LinkedIn message or an email. You're going to have to still walk through your standard process. But what you guys provide is just way more at bats and way more opportunities for someone to make that sale.
Yeah, and I think that's another big problem that I see with a lot of outbound marketing, is people are trying to sell on that first contact.
Yep.
And like, no one buys from a cold outreach directly. They buy once they get to know the person, once they like understand whether this is a technology that's like worth it for them.
Right.
Um, and that's a ladder of trust that you have to build with your potential customers. And selling just like, hey, here's my solution, isn't really the way to do it. It's like, hey, do you have this problem? In DealGen's case, like, are you looking to sell your business but you don't know where to start? Like, we can help facilitate that. That's a problem. That's not a, you know giving them just the solution up front and
Yep.
assuming that they'll convert right away.
So walk me
uh,
through, the typical process when you guys are bringing on a new client. It doesn't have to start from like, figuring out who they want to, well, having all the upfront conversations. But once ideally who they're intending to target and a little bit about what they want to sell or what they want to talk to that prospect about. How do you go about setting up these campaigns? And how is it? What's the auto touch, that really kind of takes that the extra mile?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that we've done so many of these campaigns before that we know what works and what doesn't, but we're
Yep.
still so focused on testing. So we'll really sit down with the customer and understand who who are the people who are converting today, and then boil that down into larger swaths that we can start to test and see messaging and how that's affecting for, maybe a slightly larger audience or different audience. Think of one customer who we started with, and they were selling to insurance brokers first as a cybersecurity product. And then they realized, insurance brokers isn't necessarily who needs this. It's really the service providers who are at risk of the cybersecurity breakage. And that's, a pivot, and understanding those different markets and being able to test into them made the campaigns a lot more effective
Yep.
than when we were just like, okay, we're just gonna hit a different audience now. It's that level. It's almost like an understanding of both the technical side, but also the social and business side that I think Otto really has this benefit over most other people in the space.
Yeah, I would agree, and I've seen it firsthand. You guys are always testing. You're always bringing new ideas forward. How can we get better? How can we add to these campaigns? How can we make it so that there's a little bit more personalization, or we're adding, the ringless voicemail aspect to it. Just bringing forward new ideas, figuring out what's going to work, and then doubling down on, what you guys say all the time, like we're tracking all this data. For us, we're reaching out to a number of different people, and one of the people, the classifications that we reach out to are, we go directly to companies themselves and ask them if they're for sale. Now you're trying to catch somebody at a very like specific time, and that has a very specific need, so the response rate is going to be really low. So you guys have that data, knowing like, hey, when you reach out to these groups, the response rate's this, but when you reach out to these companies, the response rate's this. Well, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be reaching out to those groups. It just means maybe we have to reach out more, or maybe we have to go to a channel where we're reaching out to someone who has access to 10 to 20 of those groups, like a venture capital fund that's invested across multiple groups. So, but you guys bring that forward to us, and then we have a conversation around how can we just make this thing better. And I think that goes a long way too, being willing to, collaborate, bring the data forward and collaborate with your partnerships. Um, at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is maximize the campaign and, get the most out of it.
Yeah,
So you obviously, your other half isn't here, Holden. Shout out Holden Bruce, of Otto. But
better half. Yeah.
so you guys, your business partners. Talk to me about how that partnership, what makes that partnership work, and why have you guys been successful so far?
Yeah, I think it's a funny thing that you said earlier in the podcast about the channel with which you communicate being text. Um, and I think almost like the way that you talk to your prospects, you also kind of have to find a way to talk to each other. Um,
Yep.
and Holden and I, uh, friends since undergrad, really good communication. I think our ability to understand one another and find the channels with which we're able to like give feedback, the channels with which we're able to like do brainstorming, how we're able to like work in tandem together has made our relationship really rewarding and fun,
Hmm.
from one perspective, and also just very effective from another. Like we can do so much together even when we're not in the same room,
Yep.
and that level of trust I think really allows us to push forward,
Yeah.
really well.
Those are huge things, and I've noticed it again from working with you guys, where we might direct a email or a text or something like that towards Holden, but you'll know, at certain times he's deep diving into code, and that obviously is taking a lot of his focus. He probably carved out a good chunk of his schedule to, really kind of focus in and do some deep work. So, you'll jump on that message and get us the exact answers we need. And I think that just goes back to you saying like understanding each other. You know what I mean? Understanding what makes your business go and where each one of you guys need to focus. And I think that will become more and more important as you guys grow too.
Yeah,
Because your roles are gonna start to be formed, but understanding why each one of you is working on certain things versus the other, and understanding when and what that person needs in order to be able to do their job effectively. Brian and I are seeing it firsthand too. And but I've witnessed you guys, and what makes your partnership go, from firsthand from that being good communicators, working on different things, being willing to, even if you're supposed to wear one hat and he's supposed to wear a different one, being willing to kind of swap when the time's right and just doing whatever it takes to get what your customers need done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, running a startup, a lot of it is understanding, especially when you're doing it with people understanding your areas of overlap and your areas of specialty and like where those things start and end. Because, yeah, like Holden is not going to want to do the marketing stuff that I'm doing or speaking to the customers. He wants to be in the code, he wants to be writing, pushing new products out, new features out. And then where we overlap is making sure that our customers succeed. And,
Right.
you know, there's places where we need to do those handoffs, or where either of us are, and we're both perfectly capable of playing within each other's spaces, but understanding like who owns what. It's a big challenge that we're always navigating and always trying to improve
Yep.
uh, with both ourselves and our employees. So
Awesome. Awesome, man. Um, so one other question I had to you, a couple more personal questions, I guess, on this front. So, I'm someone who I've started a few businesses, but I went to undergrad, and I've always thought about going to grad school, the benefits of it. I know you guys both did. You went to Harvard Business School, which obviously is pretty renowned. But outside of just getting more education, and obviously at the school that you went to, you probably got a great education. What have been some of the most beneficial and rewarding parts of attending business school and really kind of taking a deeper dive into that business education?
yeah, I think there's a big piece to it, which is like the almost like pass to let you go try something. I think HBS really gave me that. I'm super fortunate to go and have this wonderful experience, but meeting all these people from different backgrounds who had done so many different things, like starting their own companies or working for the UN or myriad of other options, uh, there's kind of this feeling of like, well, why not me? Why not, take the big shot, try to do something different and see if I can make it happen. And I think that really accelerated my timeline a lot for
Yep.
starting a business.
Hmm.
I think before business school, I was, I'll keep working for a couple of years and eventually, maybe in my late 30s or 40s would start a business. But I think business school kind of said, hey, look, you've got the tools to do this now. Um, why not take the shot? And I really appreciated that network that kind of gave me that support. And it was, partially the school, but a lot of friends and teachers that really, you know, pushed me and said, "I think you can do it." And that support is just so key when you're starting anything
Agreed.
because the good days and bad days come, but like most of it's just being able to continue and trusting yourself in the process.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think I learned a lot of that from Babson, right? It's a huge entrepreneurship school and community, and a lot of the classes they have are around creating and starting businesses and growing them and scaling them. And even though I think that the best way to learn by far is to go out and do it and fail on your own and fail with your own money and fail with your own stakes, but at the same time having getting to see firsthand like all these success stories of people that did go out and start their business, getting to learn about the intricacies that you might face one day, having a community that kind of is always putting on events and supporting people's dreams and getting out there and introducing them to potential investors and ideas that they have. It's just like all of that combined um is what's enough to maybe give you like, hey, I should take a shot. I should take a shot right now. And I might not use any of these resources like investors, or I might not use, I might not be able to attend every event, but at the end of the day, I might not even, do any of the basic accounting that I learned when I was at school in my own business. At the end of the day, it's the combined, you know, atmosphere, the combined camaraderie, the combined, education around, hey, if you want to go take a shot, you're capable of doing it. And you should. And I think you should, especially when you're younger. I think there's a lot like I haven't hit any grand slams in my career yet. I think we're always working towards getting more and more at bats and more at shots at doing big things. But the amount I've learned from just being on my own, kind of trying to start different businesses in the last 6 7 years, it's just been ridiculous. And we're still both fairly young, and I wouldn't trade that education for the world for trying to fail, start, fail, succeed, get back up again, and just keep going.
Yeah. I think failure is a force multiplier if you let it be.
Hmm.
I think you were also a college athlete. You get the feeling of like you don't learn as much from your successes as you do your failures, and taking shots is really the only way you can fail. And long term, the best way to succeed is a lot of failures. I was having a conversation with another customer a while ago, and they were talking. They were like, "Oh man, this is a great idea. I love it. I love it." And they're like, "How did you come up with this? This is awesome." I said, "Yeah, this is a good idea, but it is built on the backbone of a lot of really bad ideas." you
Right,
know.
right, yeah.
um,
Oh my God, yeah.
and I think our society really glorifies the end result, but like appreciating how hard the journey um, is an important piece too.
No, it really is, and it's funny. I literally saw something earlier today that is kind of along those same lines. It was this Picasso reference. It's like a story about Picasso, and uh, it's about a young woman bumps into Pablo Picasso on the street, and she's like, "Oh, will you paint me a picture?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So he draws this picture in 2 minutes, and it's a masterpiece. Because he's Picasso, and he goes and hands it to her, and he's like, "All right, that'll be $1 million." She's like, $1 million? That only took you 2 minutes. And his answer is like, well, no, it took me 30 years to be able to do what I just did right there. So yeah, maybe took that one took 2 minutes, but it took 30 years to get to this point. And I think that's, a lot to be said about failure. I think both of us are on to pretty good ideas right now, and we're seeing them work. Um, but they were built on the back of literally trying a million things, and fucking up a few of them, and failing at a few of them, and scrapping a bunch of them. And it's just, but you just got to stay in the game, and that, like you said, that compounding education will make you figure out, hey, this is the right way to grow this thing, not this way. I've tried that way, it's not going to work for this. This is the right way
Yeah.
to, this is the right service to offer. This is, that's a shiny object. Yes, we might be able to make a couple bucks over here, but it's not something we should focus on. We need to stay focused on what we're doing right now. All those things are from not doing, like, them in the past, from trying everything and realizing it.
Right. Yeah, and even I think the thing is, even when you're on to the right thing, you'll make more mistakes than things you'll do right. And that's hard to remember. Like,
Right.
you'll hire the wrong person more times than you'll hire the right person early on. And it's just part of the process until you get enough times that you can do it in 2 minutes. And that's the game.
Yep. Yep. So tell me this, what's an unusual habit or something that, is, I guess, different to the rest of the world that, maybe you love or excel in? And I think I know the
An
answer from knowing you, but I want to see what you say.
unusual habit of mine
Yeah.
that yeah, I mean, growing up, I was a fencer, which is just like if you want to pick a sport to get bullied in, like definitely do fencing.
Yeah,
No,
but
it was a great time.
you were a
It was a lot.
top you were a top fencer.
I was, yeah, I was on Team USA, um, which was a wonderful experience to be able to travel around the world and compete against Olympians and world champions, and made some tremendous friends through that. So it's a pretty different life than most people have lived. It,
Hmm.
I I remember we lost a customer once, and Holden was really upset, and I he was like, "Why aren't you mad?" And I was like, when you've been screamed in the face by a 6'7" Estonian man with a weapon in his hand, there's just like a lot less things that frustrate you.
Yeah, yeah. That guy might beat your face in or something or stab you.
Yeah,
The customer, you can get another customer back, and chances are they probably weren't the right customer. So it's at the end of the day, it's money lost and it's frustrating because you probably thought you're doing a really good job in the sense of like we're doing everything we can, but you know it was probably never going to work out anyways. But no, I always think
yeah,
that's fascinating, man. Like if I've never fenced, and even if I had the desire to go fence, I wouldn't even know where to even go to do something like that. But you've, kind of built a life around, or at least a past life around, and a really cool one around that type of opportunity, which I think is really cool. So, last
yeah.
question I got: what is an item under $100 that you bought recently that you love? And I know it's hard to buy things for under $100 now, but what's something that you've bought and you've been like, this is the best?
I think it's cheating a little because it was on Black Friday, but I got an air fryer for under $100, and I
Nice.
just absolutely love it. It's like my favorite way to cook. My partner and I do a lot of cooking on the weekends. We'll do meal prep, and we'll just use the air fryer all day. So that's my
Dude, those
favorite
things
product.
rule. They really do. And they cook. I mean, the food comes out unbelievable. And
Unbelievable.
under $100 for one of those too. I mean, that's some pretty sick value.
Yeah. I think they're normally like 150. So it was a pretty solid discount
That's a
to get one.
steal. That's a steal. Well, look, man, I really appreciate you coming on here. You guys one of the first groups I thought of when I wanted to fire this thing back up, and obviously love working with you guys. Love watching you guys grow. And looking forward to doing a lot together. I think we really only just begun. I think we're still in the batter's box. We might not even be in the first inning. And that's exciting because we're doing a lot already.
Yeah, but I mean, for our businesses to together have generated over $1 billion of proprietary deal flow
Yep.
for funds
Yep.
in the first what are we like 6 months in?
Hmm.
I'd say we're definitely hitting more than singles these days.
Yeah. 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 And a lot of those are going to turn into transactions soon, which is so great.
Yeah,
Well, great, man. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for your time. And again, awesome, awesome working with you guys. Shout out to Otto. Shout out to Holden. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
yeah. Love Deal Gen.
Thanks,
Bye,
man.
Steve.
See ya.
Bye.